Plastic model builders, welcome back. This is part 2 of the A-10 Warthog by Revell, the 1/48 scale. If you didn't see part 1, go back, check that out. It's a really good video. You got to watch that before you see part 2. So, picking up where we left off from part 1, we went ahead and we put our green putty on here, and we're pulling off the tape. I had the tape on there. That way you can cover up some of your detail on your panel lines and you don't have to do as much sanding. This model did have raised panel lines, which we all know we hate, and it makes it difficult to sand things because you're going to lose a lot of detail. So we sanded all that down. We're putting in the tail pieces here, and these tail pieces are stacked, meaning one fin goes on top of the other when it fits inside of the fuselage. That way you know which tail piece goes in and where, and they can hold each other together and stabilize themselves. So we're putting in that right side there. It's kind of going to snap into place. Make sure it's in really well. Here we're taking the Decelerons. We're going to put those on to the back of the plane. They go into the wing slots, and those right there, those balance it out. So you're going to put on the Decelerons first, put a little glue on there, and then you're going to need some tweezers probably to put on the little balancers, because those are a pain in the butt. Even with glue, kind of got to hold them there. You might want to use super glue or maybe some other method. I haven't discovered it. Maybe I'll try holding tape on there onto the piece and then trying to put it on. So we're putting on, this here is the right wing. Remember, watch out for that little pitot tube because that's on there. This is going to go on the left wing right here. Putting that on, slowly put it in, make sure it's in there good. Let that glue dry for a little bit. Once you feel that setting up, you can put on the balance, and this is what we're doing right here. It goes right along this inside edge and it meets up right there. You see that's already on there, and just putting a little glue on there to secure it. And this is the other wing, repeating the same side. You see how that fits in there. Had a little too much glue in there. No big deal. It's in an inconspicuous spot. No one will probably notice it. So these are the gear fairings. Going to cut out that little centerpiece there and make sure you get all the flashing off these before you do anything else. Where these go, I decided how I built this model. I was going to take the rear gear off, which I'm doing right here with the linkage. So I'm going to put the linkage onto the rear gear, into the wings, and then we're going to let that set and then pull those out. And what I decided to do, because the inside of that fairing goes gloss white, I wanted to paint the inside of this white and all along where the wheel wells actually go to give it a better paint job. Keep in mind, you also do have to paint this a gray color or a green camouflage, whichever you prefer. It's also a gray camouflage, if you could call it that, but that's how they did it. So here I've got those rear wheels in, and I've got the struts on there. Right here we're doing the nose gear. I did not show cutting that piece out because simply forgot to do it. Cutting some other pieces out. Right here are our rear landing gear and our front wheels. Cutting all those out, and we're going to assemble these and we'll paint those a little bit later. What we have here is the Pave penny. We just cut this out of the sprue. We're going to attach the other half of this onto the long section, and this long section is going to go onto the right side of the fuselage. This is a rear wheel. We got 2 of those to do. We are going to simply run a bead of glue all the way around the edge of this, and we are going to take the top piece and stick it right here. This is actually the inside, which attaches to the wheel itself. Here we are doing the other one. Same process, just put the glue around, press it together. I'm redoing it, showing you how the different ways it could be done, because I didn't like how it turned out. I think I had it a little misconstrued and crooked, so I took it out and redid it. So there it is again. And now we are moving on to our missiles, bombs, fuel tanks, and the napalm. So we've got 6 wonderful Maverick missiles that we are cutting out here. Yes, 6 is a lot. They all go on the plane. You're going to have 8 cluster bombs, 2 napalm bombs, and 1 fuel tank. And if you choose so, also an ECM pod. You don't have to put these on the plane. They do come with the plane if you want to do that. I don't have the ECM pod because that is on my F-16 Falcon Warbird, which is essentially a F-16 fighting Falcon Thunderbird plane that was armed. Check out that video again. I mentioned that in the last one if you haven't seen it. Here are those cluster bombs we are cutting out right here. Some of those also went onto that airplane that I was talking about, so you won't see me cutting all of those out. You see those napalm bombs just off to the right over here that I'm cutting out right now. We're going to paint those silver later on, but for now we'll just cut those out and we'll get these things assembled. I'm going to show you a couple of them, not all of them, because that is a lot. Maybe in some other videos I'll show you every single one that I do. So right here we are going to assemble the fuel tank. This is the one half of that. Just go around the edge like we're doing here, fill in those little holes that we do, go around the rest of this edge all the way up to the top of the cone, and then right back around the other side. It was easy for me to grab a tail fin and just kind of place this in. That way it made it a lot easier to do. And once we get all the glue on here, we'll do that. Here we go, we have that. I guess I didn't grab it by the tail fin. I just press it down. Here is the cluster bomb. As I said, there are 8 of them. I'm going to show you one right here. Go around the edges. Note the tail fins. You kind of stay away from that. Got the little stud there that goes into the hole, that pin. Place these together. Press it firmly. Usually the glue will hold these. Got the napalm bomb. One part of the fin goes on that little round section you see where there's the little glue off to the right where my fingers are. Go around the edge of this. Get that little hole there. And after we do that, we'll take the other napalm section and stick that on. Make sure that where it sits nicely. This is one of the missiles that I was talking about earlier. We have 6 of those, and eventually we'll put a clear piece that goes right onto the top of this. Put these together. You will have a little bit of sanding to do on all these. That way they go together nicely. Here's the rear wheels. Coming back to those, pull those out, because remember I said we're going to paint those. So here is that Pave penny. Put a little glue on the one side, and you're going to see the registrations right there, those holes. Pave penny has some spikes on them that go right inside of there. Here are the turbines. Cut these out. We're going to cut out the exhaust nozzles and as well the afterburners as labeled. And here are the afterburners right here. And they have a little arrow on them telling us which way goes up for when we put those inside of the exhaust and inside of the engines, which you see right there. So paint the insides of these black. These are the nozzles. The insides go black. As well do the afterburners and the inside of the engine mounts. So here's an afterburner. We're going to paint that black. You got 2 of those and you have 2 nozzles. The outsides of the nozzles, those will go a steel color. So we'll get this really good. Get all the way around of it because you might see some of that when you look inside of the airplane. So we want to make sure it looks pretty. So here's the inside and top of these. These are black. These are where the engines essentially go. Using my airbrush right here. I think I used some Tamiya paint, so it came out really nicely. Gives a nice little dull color to it. Getting the other half, there was a there was a top and then 2 bottom halves. So that's what we're doing here, the bottom halves of the engine mounts. So once we get those done, we are going to show you the wheels. I'm going to paint these wheels black as well, because of course wheels usually go black or a rubber color. Sometimes I paint them rubber color, sometimes I paint them black. This time we're going with the black. This is the other wheel. Don't forget you also have the front wheel to do, which is really small. Don't want to lose it. Maybe you want to tack it down because it might blow away. I got lucky that mine didn't blow away. And here my nice little round turntable that I'm using came out very nicely, and it really helped that I used this for doing everything. So we'll get that finished and painted up. Here's the opposite sides. Of course, you have to turn everything over. If you do the top, you obviously have to do the bottom and the back side, whatever side you want to call it. So we're getting that done. Right here, just going around, you see this is almost complete. We will let those dry. When they do dry, we will paint the wheel hubs a nice white gloss color. Doesn't that seem like they always go gloss white? We just did this because we already had the black out. We're going to do the canopy frame as well. I tried to do everything in black that I possibly could while I had that paint out in the airbrush. That way, you know, you're only having to change your color one time. Coming up is the wonderful nozzle, and here it is. I got a piece of paper in there. That way I can turn it, and as well, if I spray from one angle, paint does not get inside the nozzle and doesn't mess up the black interior of that. So here we go, going on the other side, and you see how I hold that airbrush just going one direction. That way I don't get paint inside of it. We'll paint that a pretty steel color, and it looks good once it's done. Also, the turbines, they also go a steel color, and we're going to show you that right now. So here's the turbine. We've got 2 of those. Just go around the insides like we're doing. It'll turn out really nice. You want to make that steel color. Here we are going around with our little carousel. Made it so much easier to paint things with this. You can hold it, spin it, and if you tack them down, it works a lot better. Right here we have the anti-sway braces that go on all the pylons for the missiles and the rails and all that stuff. There's 16 of these guys. There's a lot of them, and it was a pain in the butt. You had to cut them out. I actually put mine on backwards, and you'll see that in the next video probably. So here we go. This is the exhaust. I'm sorry, not exhaust. That is the engine right there, and we are putting this together right there, the turbine. We are going to put the nozzle on each one of these. Notice there's registration marks on those because each side has a proper angle that it has to be tilted at. When it sits inside, they actually tilt up due to the engines being faced downward in a way. So here you see the engine mount. We're going to put the turbines in. They have little grooves that they fit in. They kind of have to pop in. You got to give it a little bit of pressure, and they will fit in there. One side goes in better than the other. I tried to do this rather quickly. That way I could get the bottoms on those and tie those together with rubber bands so anything wouldn't pop out. So here I'm showing you that arrow. It's right there. You want to shows on the directions. It technically goes up, but the way you're doing this, it's up basically onto the top piece. So you'll basically be pointing it down if it's looking at it like we're doing here. And the directions, it is noted on the directions, so pay attention to that. We have both these pieces in. We are now going to put on the bottoms of the engine bottoms. So go around right here. You don't have to go around all of them because there is a small gap that you'll see right over here on the left side of this one. Make sure you get your turbines and all that stuff. When these are put in, this will get turned upside down and then fit nicely onto the fuselage because there's a spot for it. So we have one of those on, and we are doing the other side right now. This will be the right side of the plane. Go right there around the turbine on this as well, and now put the bottom half on that side. And this is what it looks like when it's completed. Put some rubber bands on this, and we can take those off after it dries, and once they dry, we can glue this onto the fuselage. So here it is. You can see I have that sanding all done with the green putty that I used. Put a little bit of glue right here on the edge and on the inside, and you can see where it goes. Just getting this right here around the frame of that fuselage. Press this down. You want to hold it pretty good until that glue sets up, because otherwise it might pop out a little bit. So here we go. We are going to put this on very, very carefully, and once we do, just hold it in place so that glue starts setting up, and then you can kind of just sit the plane aside, let it dry for a little bit, do whatever you want in between. Here we go. Put it on, and you'll see you're going to have to put some filler in there. There's a filler on the back side. Here are all of the pylons. When you cut these out, you need to either do them one by one or make sure you know which one goes in which spot. The reason being is the wings on this plane actually bow upward, so they have an angle to it. If you put on the wrong pylon, they will also look like they're at an odd angle. So with the wings up, the pylons will actually look straight down if you put the right ones in the right spot. So pay attention to that. What I did is I put them in ahead of time because I already cut them out. Didn't mark them, so that's why I'm letting you know. You need to make sure you know which ones go where, because they all kind of look alike. We are gluing these in slowly, one by one. Here you can put it onto the pylon itself, or you can do like I do the rest of them, where I just kind of put a little bit of glue on the layout where they have on the plane. They fit nicely. Just make sure they all line up with that little layout that they have there. So here we are doing our fourth one, about to move on to the fifth one, and you see we have 3 more left after this, and then the one where the fuel tank will go in the center. So here we put that down. Going on to our 6th one, same thing, put the glue, and as well the 8th one, because I already did that one on the end where you saw me do that. and I just put the glue on the actual pylon for that one. Here I didn't put the glue on the pylon, I put it onto the wing. And that's what it looks like. You'll see there everything looks basically like it should go straight. If it doesn't, my bad. So this one goes in the center. You see that big slot right there. Make sure it lines up and it's straight with the plane. We've got our cannon muzzle. You want to cut off a little bit because as I was testing the pieces out, I noticed it didn't fit in. And doing it this way, it fit. I twisted my gun so each little nozzle lined up with the holes right there. And the way I did this later on, I came back and I drilled out each little hole. Yeah, I had fun doing it. I don't usually do that, but I had the right tools, so I did it. And here are our ventral stakes. Cut these out. They go on the underside of the plane right here. They got those slots for it. It's right towards the front. One on each side. Put in the first one here. And then we'll do the other side, which is the left side of the plane. Make sure they fit in the grooves properly, otherwise it's going to look kind of funny. And there we go. Just hold those in, let them set up a little bit, and we're good. Right here is a little vent cover. We're going to cut that off, and then the door for the ladder. Make sure you get all the flashing off of these pieces ahead of time. And then this little guy, it's an antenna. Be real careful with it. It's got some flashing right there from the molds. Get both of those sides off. Make it look pretty when you have to glue it onto the plane. So here we go. Put a little bit of super glue. This is how I did mine. With a cup right there. That way it doesn't dissolve. Carefully place this down. Super glue should hold it in place within a couple of seconds. Mine slides just a little bit, but it still stayed to the center. Here is where the little vent cover goes, over those. Put that glue there so it can set for just a couple of seconds. Put your little door here, and if you need to readjust the door, do so. Putting that vent cover on. You see right where it fits over the little grill pieces. This is a drain. Cut out the drain and then the taxi light. The taxi light will go onto the front landing gear. So same thing here. I got a little bit of glue on this piece of paper. We are going to put this drain right here. Notice the orientation and which way that drain goes. It goes in between two other little antennae that are already molded onto the plane. The taxi light goes onto the front gear that you can actually see here because I didn't show you that before. That's where that goes on that whole assembly. We're going to cut out our missile rails while we let those pieces dry. We've got two of these right here. The top missile rail fits onto the bottom missile rail, which then will go onto the pylons. So I took some more glue, put it on a piece of paper, just lightly dabbed it on there, and you see how this fits in. Those little studs basically fit into the holes, and simple as that, easy enough. The glue is enough to hold those together, and that's how I assembled those, and those will get some Maverick missiles on them. I really enjoyed the missiles on this plane. They came out nicely. Here are the wheel hubs. Of course, they go white. Why wouldn't they go white? Anything less would be uncivilized. Where have I heard that expression before? We won't say, but hey, I did say the expression. So take off the masking, as I mentioned earlier, that you would have to do a little bit of putty on this. I didn't have much success. It came out kind of funny, and I didn't want to take too much time on it because I'd rather just get the airplane done. Because it's me, you know, I don't really take pride in certain things, and sometimes that's one of them. I just like to get the plane done, especially if you guys want to see a video timely. Sometimes you have to cut a little corner here and there. I don't always have time to make things perfect. So that is the front landing gear. We just put that in place. Be careful how you do it. This is the access panel. You kind of have to aim it down and then lean it forward for it to fit in properly. It's a little bit of a trick, so I recommend practicing before you put the glue on. Practice makes perfect, doesn't it? As you see, the glue is just going all the way around this little panel here, and we are going to carefully put this in, trying not to get glue all over the place, because as you can see, it's a weird looking panel and it just fits perfectly over this gun here. And there we go. That is in place. You might want to have something to hold it down. time to put in the rear landing gear. If you remember, I only glued the two pieces together and I pulled them out. So what we're going to do, I use some super glue. I'm going to stick those in the wings. They can only go one way. Make sure you have them right. And then we can paint those insides white, and as well the other pieces that I showed you earlier, we can also do the insides of those will go white as well, nice gloss color. And there they are. I did put those on last because we didn't want to break anything. So take the nav lights, we are going to take those off and put a little bit of plastic cement on. Usually the plastic cement might make things, I guess, get rid of the clear color. That's okay because they're going to get painted anyway. See, we got one there, and here is the other one. We will place that down, and that is done. Here we're just getting the canopy ready for some paint. This concludes part 2. Part 3, we're going to show you how to paint this model a lovely camouflage color. Don't forget to subscribe. We love subscribers. That way you get the latest video updates. Comments and likes are appreciated. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Happy model building.